Two important Berlin collections, the comprehensive collection of the Ethnological Museum and the Museum for Asian Art, are now displayed at the west wing of the newly built Berlin Palace in the Humboldt Forum.
Many displayed objects originate from a colonial context, brought to Germany in the course of expeditions, sometimes captured by colonial civil servants and missionaries. The confrontation with this heritage is of important concern for the curators, in collaboration with the societies of origin and in provenance research. However, the colonial heritage is also placed in new fields of tension through direct confrontation with contemporary art.
The Ethnological Museum, with its collection, dates back to the 16th century. Art and everyday objects that open up worlds of life were collected from people of almost every continent. At the same time, what was brought back to Germany also bears witness to the collectors themselves, their curiosity and greed, as well as to their narrowed view, especially when it comes to the African continent.
Numerous collectors were fascinated by the wild, supposedly primitive Africa, and regarded it as isolated and therefore overlooked its historical interconnections with the rest of the world. Thus, the selection of objects in the European homeland also formed the distorted image of a backward continent. With its collaborations, the Ethnological Museum strives for reassessments from African perspectives.
A team of German-Namibian experts intensively studied the cultural and historical significance of objects from Namibia, a former German colony. Result: they present the objects in a more subtle way, printed on acrylic glass. In fact, a network of knowledge has been stretched throughout the vitrines, a symbol for the intertwined ways of collaboratively creating knowledge.
The room, featuring colonial Cameroon, deals with the dialectic of historical entanglements and provenance. The kings of Cameroon viewed art as a status symbol. Doing politics or forging alliances was often done through making gifts. Complex codes regulated the give and take between colonial masters and African rulers. Another story about the path of art to Berlin.
Also, immaterial documents are part of the collections at the Ethnological Museum. The phonogram archive comprises 16,000 recordings recorded on wax rolls. Special collages from these are available in an enchanting room to listen closely to and immerse oneself. Collecting always means putting things in order as well, as it is the case with the instrument collection. The criteria for this can vary. Some of the possibilities are exhibited.
At the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century in New Ireland and at the Sepik River, today Papua New Guinea, German colonial civil servants, merchants and scientists collected and captured ethnographical objects that tell stories of a life in a region where the worlds of the living and the dead merge in everyday life as well as in ceremonies and rituals of the people.
The Museum for Asian Art comprises collections consisting of approximately 20,000 artistic, handcrafted and archaeological objects. The sacral context played a prominent role in South and Southeast Asian art. Religious founders and a multitude of gods, how were they displayed? How were they worshipped? Which images of these sacred characters did believers build up in their minds? Another fascinating aspect is the transition to imagery. For example, when it comes to the presentation of Buddha. Therefore, it was only 500 years after his death that the master was figuratively carved out of the stone, and thus also figuratively for the believers.
The most widespread religion in India is Hinduism. Hinduism stands for diversity. The task of the gods community was to create and protect the cosmic order, while the humans were obliged to live according to this order, to nurture the gods with sacrifices, and to worship them in rituals.
From the 13th until the 19th century, big parts of India were ruled by Islamic dynasties, a multitude of sultans. The fertile cultural influences of the Islamic presence can still be witnessed in the Gallery of Courtly India. The architectural, literary or pictorial heyday and the magnificence of luxury products were formative for the coming epochs.
A network of trading routes, which we call Silk Roads today, played an important role for the spreading of different religions to China and East Asia. In the 6th century, Buddhism was the most important religion, when believers had hundreds of cave temples built in Kizil, formerly the Kingdom of Kucha. This room was designed as a journey. In the center, on both sides of a partial construction, one can see the pictures of the Indo-European founding figures, the so-called sword tales.
Also in China and Japan, Buddhist traditions developed. The objects displayed here indicate the diversity of the conviction-based practices in these countries. Once they were worshipped in temples as a part of whole ensembles.
For the Museum of Asian Art, a tea house was designed in Japan. It serves as a place where one can drink tea and to contemplate art. Other areas indicate the diversity of Japanese art with regular changes of objects.
Korean art and culture occupy a key position between China and Japan. Ceramic vessels dominate the presentation in the Korean gallery, in modest elegance and uniqueness of design.
Studying, collecting, and connoisseurship play an essential role in Chinese art. The Walk-in East Asian Study Collection also uses thematic windows to give an overview of ceramic traditions in China and connections with objects from West Asia and Europe.
With the new presentation of its collections, the Ethnological Museum and the Museum for Asian Art want to initiate a change of perspective for the multi-layered dimensions of its objects.
The collections as a vivid place for inspiration, for contemplating and discussing objects, their origins, and their cultural contexts.